Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at the new rank 1 in the PvPoke rankings for the Open Great League. It's going to be Skarmory. Yes, Skarmory is the rank 1 on PvPoke now for the Open Great League. Nobody thought it, but Niantic gave it +2 energy for Steel Wing, which is going to make it now a Poison Jab clone as a Steel type move, which I feel like is actually still kind of balanced. I have to say, this team was working out pretty well, not as well as the team that I showcased you earlier though, so you're going to see a little bit more losses than just one which I had on the other team, so it's a little bit difficult to even surpass that, but still, this team was very good and was a lot of fun to still play, so definitely a solid one here, but we of course want to have a little bit of a focus onto the Skarmory. Skarmory is a very cool Pokemon, it's a good typing in general. Like, you're going to have a Steel and Flying type, which is going to be only weak against Electric, which is fairly rare to be seen, as well as Fire types, which I guess now are going to be a little bit more common with the current meta. But this Pokemon is just generating energy insanely fast, it's going to hit really hard, but also I have to get used to the Sky Attack being 50 energy instead of 45 because I avoid to play everything that has the Sky Attack. So sometimes I overfarm a little bit too much because I was like, oh, I can still overfarm a little bit above 2 Sky Attacks, which I'm not allowed to anymore, but still, this team was a lot of fun, this team is really good, and we can move on to the second game already. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the team. Of course, it's not really the most creative one. If you want to be a little bit more creative, you can also use something like the Seisob of the Vigoroth, but I kind of wanted to have something neutral against Medicham because I'm fairly certain that the lead is still not the best against Medicham because, yes, you're going to have the super effective Sky Attack as well as Brave Bird. Your fast move is going to be neutral and they're going to do neutral damage against you, so I don't want to have another Pokemon completely being weak against Medicham in the back. And so I decided to go for Double Mud Boy, which is not the most creative one, but definitely a very effective team here. Like, this is very easy to play. You're going to have the Quagsire as your Say Swap here. You can even decide to go for a different moveset if you want to. Trying to bait out potential grass type Pokemon. I feel like Awkward Tail is, by the way, needed here. You can decide if you want to go for Mud Bomb, Stone Edge, or Earthquake, how I did here with Earthquake, which is a little bit of a nuke move. But you know what's actually really cool about Skarmory? You can completely hardwall the Gligar, which is amazing because this Pokemon is kind of everywhere. And so you're going to be able to just take those moves like it's nothing, and we can even go for a big Brave Bird against the opponent's Jellicent. Also, something to note, the first move that you're gonna get to is going to be both the both the Brave Bird as well as the Sky Attack at the exact same time, which I did not know before as well, but you're gonna get, I think, to like 56 energy after, I think, like 8 fast moves or something, and so you're going to have both the Brave Bird as well as the Sky Attack available, so you have basically a similar scenario that we had before somewhere with the Pidgeot, where we had like both moves at the exact same time. I think it was with Gust, and now you have the same thing here as well, but this Pokemon itself is just so bulky and so strong now. Let's move on to the third game. Now I'm going to commentate a little bit more about the battles as well. We're going to have a Dragonite in the lead. This is going to be a fairly decent lead for us, but let's see what the opponent is going to go into. They're going to go into a Poliwrath, which is going to be a little bit of an issue here. And here I might actually would recommend you to go for Mud Bomb over the Earthquake on Quagsire, because, yeah, we're going to have a little bit of an issue here. They're going to run the Icy Wind on the Poliwrath, a new move as well. As we can still go for the Earthquake, I can still survive this one, but the opponent gonna go for an Icy Wind, and this Earthquake definitely does not knock them out anymore now after 2 debuffs of my attack. This is just gonna get them a little bit lower, and I can go into my Swampert to go for the full farm down. I could have went for a charge move, now most likely should have went for a charge move, but we're gonna go ahead and go for the full farm down instead, getting a ton of energy as the opponent decides to swap out into their Dragonite. They're going to have the Magnezone on the back. And yeah, this is going to be sadly now a hard wall after losing the switch advantage because we didn't have really the best answers against the Poliwrath. This team going to be a little bit of a tricky one to deal with. The Shadow Magnezone plus Shadow Dragonite is also a very unique core. It's definitely a solid core, by the way. I think I played a similar team before. But yeah, we're going to have a little bit of a tricky time because sadly Hydrokin is just barely not enough, and so they can farm us down. So let's move on to the next game. We're going to have the Azumarill here in the lead. We're going to see here already how fast we can charge up and also how much damage we're going to do. Because it's like now a Poison Jab clone, you're going to do quite a bit of damage. It's close to counter actually, just 1 damage away from being a counter clone, which is wild. So Skarmory really got a big upgrade. But again, I say, while it looks really good on paper and it's really good on PvPoke as well, I still feel like it is very balanced, and I don't think it's a bad thing for the meta in general. Because basically the Steel typing is a pretty bad offensive typing. There are a lot of Water type Pokemon which are going to be able to resist it. There are a lot of Steel type Pokemon which are going to be able to resist it. It's going to be not really a move that you want to use offensively anyway. Only Ice types, Rock types, and Fairy types are going to get super effective hits from it. So it is not going to be the best move ever. Like, for example, a Flying type fast move is usually preferred over a Steel type fast move if they have the exact same stats, but as you can see here, this is going to make this Pokemon still very, very viable. And here we're going to go up against the Registeel. We're going to be a little bit, not ahead in terms of energy, we're a little bit back from the energy, so we're going to be forced to go for a bait here, but it's not even going to be a bait because Hydro Cannon spam is actually a very solid option with the Swampert here. Shadow Swampert, again, as I said before in the video as well, if you haven't seen like the top buffs as well, you kind of want to maybe have the Shadow Swampert as well nowadays because you're going to be able to one-shot Talonflame, but you're also going to be able to have a better matchup there against the opponent's Registeel, as you can even go for another Hydro Cannon against the Azumarill and win this game. Let's move on to the next one. Against someone who actually won a regional already. I think it's a French player if I'm not mistaken. They're going to have an Azumarill in the lead, which is going to be a solid one for us, but we can now here go ahead and go for the Brave Bird against the opponent. I decided to now swap out immediately because I expect them to go for their own charge move. I think they waited out for this reason, but as you can see here, they're going to go into the Vigoroth, and I can go for the big Earthquake instead of going for a bait, and we're going to get them insanely low. Which I didn't know is that the opponent is going to be able to go for a charge move here right now, but they're also going to be able to outspeed me to the next one, which is a little bit tricky as now they can just go for the knockout against me and I can get a lot of farm with my Skarmory, which is going to be kind of nice. But as you're going to see later on as well, I kind of misplay this game a bit, I would say. I can still go for a charge move here. There's going to be a Sky Attack. They're going to use a shield. And I can use a shield here as well to see what they're going to have. It's going to be the Ice Beam. And as you can see here, they're going to go for the Ice Beam immediately afterwards. And I thought now, okay, I should be able to just farm them down at this point. And this should be kind of fine for me. And they get there with a 1 HP and a Dream. And so I misplay this quite a bit with this one, because if I still had my shield left, if I would just went for a charge move, for example, I'm fairly certain I would have been able to win this game, but Lickitung is kind of like the worst possible Pokemon to face in the back, because it's going to do enough damage to farm down my Skarmory, and it is going to have Grass type coverage for my Swampert. For example, if they had something like a Grass type in the back, I still would have been able to get two Sky Attacks, even though my Swampert would have had a bad time, but like this, we're going to sadly lose. Next opponent, we're going to encounter the opponent's Machamp here immediately, which we can just go for a Sky Attack basically, but they decided to swap out into the Lickitung, allowing us to reach out for a big Brave Bird, and down it goes basically, going to do a ton of damage. And I honestly made the mistake here by going into my Quagsire. I should have definitely went into my Swampert, because Swampert would have been able to knock them out with just one Hydro Cannon from the range they were at, and so this is definitely a mistake, was on my fault there. Definitely still doesn't really matter too much, to be fair, because I can just go for the awkward tail spam, but could have been definitely solved a little bit better there. Definitely my fault. Let's take a look here at the next opponent's Pokemon. They're going to be the Serperior. Serperior is exactly what you kind of want to get out of here, as we're going to be able to just go for the awkward tail spam, but I can align my lead against it, which is going to be amazing, and I don't really have to care about the attacks anyway, because they're all going to be resisted. The Aerial Ace is going to be resisted, as well as also their double resisted Frenzy Plant, which is going to be amazing for me. They're going to go for an Ice Punch. I can take this and I can swap out now into my Swampert. What I can do here is I can hopefully get just 2 shields from the opponent's Medicham by going for 2 Hydro Cannons here, which should hopefully be enough for that. If they let this move go through, I should be able to farm them down with my Skarmory as well, and so I can just go for another Hydro Cannon, force them to use another shield, and now they're going to be still in Sky Attack range. I can use a shield against their own move, and I should hopefully have a great time here, as I can go for the Sky Attack. That's gonna get the knockout for sure. It is Stab, it is super effective, and it's going to get the knockout here, as the opponent gonna go back into their Serperior. But due to charge moves knock me out here, we are very bulky though. Let's see, Aerial Ace is not enough to 2-shot me, and I can go for the Sky Attack. Even for the Brave Bird I would have been able to get to, but this is going to be a good game. Let's take a look at the next opponent. Someone who's also subscribed to me, so shoutouts to you. I always see you also on Twitter, so yeah, shoutouts to you there. We're going to have a very bad lead for us with the Salazzle, also a Pokemon that got buffed. And we're gonna get out now the opponent's Diggersby, which is going to be interesting, because Diggersby is going to take super effective damage from our Awkward Tail, which is amazing, as we're now gonna get them fairly low. I can go for another Awkward Tail and CMP tie against the opponent, which is going to force the opponent to go for another shield. I can use a shield as well. This is going to be fine for me. It's going to be a Scorching Sands, and I thought, okay, I can just go and outspeed them here to the next move, and this is going to be just a Fire Punch. Turns out it is not, and I can go for another charge move here. Maybe I could have even went for the full farm down, but as you're going to see, I can get the realignment, which is basically all I'm really caring about anyway, as I can go into my Swampert now and I can go for the Mud Shot down against the opponent, and so I can realign. And as I went into their ground type there and against my water type, and they're staying in here as well, it was kind of clear for me that they're going to have a ground type in the back, and so they're going to be triple weak against water, which is maybe not ideal for a team if you really want to climb, of course. At the current time, it literally doesn't matter what you're running, like, run whatever you want to do, just have some fun right now. Let's move on to the next one. Let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to encounter a Lantern in the lead. I will be able to swap out into my Quagsire, and they're going to go into their Ninetales. And so I can try to bait that I have Stone Edge, which would get the knockout against the opponents. They go for the Weather Ball, which is fine for me. Awkward Tails coming through, trying to pretend it is a Stone Edge to see if they're going to use a shield. They decide to use a shield. And so I can try to go for my own shield here, as I can go for my own Awkward Tail as well. This is gonna get hopefully another shield, would be very nice for me. Let's see, it does, and so I can try to go for the Earthquake, and this is going to be a CMP tie, so I will be able to realign. And against a Lantern in the back, it is very good for me to realign, as my Swampert has to go up against this one now, and not my Skarmory, which has basically even less of a chance now with a fast move, but okay, I mean, both fast moves that it has are going to be resisted, and in the back it's going to be even better for us. It's going to be the Gligar. Gligar, as said before, has nothing to hit me. Like, of course, they would have theoretically the Night Slash, which I don't think is going to be meta, but I feel like Gligar is going to be a little bit less meta now because of the Skarmory buff. I kind of wanted to wait out also until we have the actual confirmation about like the move changes and like the move stats before I made like a top nerf video, because this is going to impact quite a bit. Like, the Skarmory buff going to impact a lot of grass types, and here, for example, we're going to be able to easily win this game. As we can move on to the next one, like, Skarmory buff going to really impact a lot of Pokemon. Getting +2 energy was a lot, and here we're going to have the Mirror of Skarmory, which is kind of funny. So let's see how this is going to turn out. I'm going to wait until they're going to throw, and then I can try to swap out, which is a little bit of a silly idea because they are going to get up to the Brave Bird now, and so I'm forced to use a shield, which is not ideal. And let's see what they're going to run in the back. They're going to run the Sableye. This is, honestly, I think this is a team that I also had in my top team video, which is kind of funny. Definitely going to be linked in the end card as well if you haven't seen this one, together with, of course, the Talonflame video, which I uploaded earlier, so definitely check that one out as well. We're going to get out an Awkward Tail here against the opponent. This is going to be amazing for me. Is this going to get them low? I can still reach another charge move and force a shield or the switch alignment for us. Let's see what they're going to go for. They're going to use a shield, and I make a mistake. And this mistake is going to cost me the game. I should have went into my Swampert, and I went for a CMP tie here, which was even more stupider than I could have even done it. And yes, the opponent basically has the exact same team that I have as well, but they use Sableye as a Say Swap, which I would recommend here as well. Sableye is a decent Say Swap as well. I don't even know why I didn't run it, but I decided to go for the Quagsire for whatever reason, so that's me. But the opponent's team is something that I have in the top team video as well. Definitely solid, definitely something that you should try out if you can, and this is going to be sadly a loss for me as the opponent can outspeed me. Could have won this most likely if I played a little bit smarter, but I'm just not smart enough. So let's move on to the final battle here. I think this is actually a streamer, so shouts to you as well. I think I saw your name quite often there as well. Here we're gonna see a Toxapex lead, which is going to be amazing for us. Our entire team is going to be able to destroy Toxapex, and so this is going to be a great one for us. Also, with my top 10 buffs, it might be a little bit off now as well, with not expecting that Skarmory gets buffed that crazy hard. We're going to see here that the Toxapex has no chance against us. We can go for the Brave Bird. They decide to use a shield, so I decide to swap out into my Quagsire, and there's honestly nowhere to go for them, as we are going to be able to go for an Awkward Tail against the opponent's Wigglytuff. Yes, Wigglytuff got buffed, but doesn't really matter against a Quagsire that has nearly 100 energy. I'm not sure about it, as they can just outspam the opponent with those Awkward Tails, and like this, the Wigglytuff is going down before they can even go for the Icy Wind. And in the back, they're going to run the Deoxys, which is of course going to not appreciate those damaging moves as well, with the Awkward Tail going to definitely destroy around like 30% of their health, which is going to be amazing, as another one is going to hit them very soon afterwards. And so I can swap onto my Skarmory because there's basically no issue with this one. They're forced to go for the Thunderbolt, which they do, takes a ton of energy, and so I can go for the Sky Attack in order to try to get the knockout here. And this knockout is not going to happen because they're going to use a shield, but I'm fine with that, as I still have my Swampert in the back, and of course they are going to have the Toxapex. They actually can farm me down here, which was kind of wild. But Swampert, even though they're going to have a ton of energy, it still can take 2 Brines. Brine is a horrific move, and so the Toxapex has basically nowhere to go. I can just go for the full farm down with my fast move of Mud Shot against the opponent's Toxapex. And what do they want to do here, honestly? I can try to swap out onto the Charge Move as well to flex a little bit. It does not really matter because we're just going to be able to go for the big Earthquake against the Deoxys. And so this is going to be a good game there. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.